Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be especially personal in that I'm going to a store that originated right here in my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. Back in 1916, the first Piggly Wiggly store opened here, and within a few years the chain grew to over 1,200 stores. I remember as a child, Piggly Wiggly was everywhere. And then for whatever reason, over the past couple of decades, they've just kind of gone away. There's only one remaining in my area, and it's not even in Memphis. It's in Olive Branch, right outside of Memphis, right across the state line into Mississippi. So the other day, the wife and I took a little short road trip and went to Piggly Wiggly. So let me present to you the Dad Budget Adventures Homemade MRE Menu PG1, honoring the grocery store that started in my hometown. Now, one of the cool local connections that still does exist with Piggly Wiggly is we have a museum called the Pink Palace, which is an absolutely glorious place. And inside the Pink Palace, they have a replica of the original Piggly Wiggly. You can go in there, get shopping carts and tool around, go up and down the aisles and see the groceries that would have been on the shelf back then. So if you're ever in Memphis and you're curious about the pig, go check out the Pink Palace. Now, one of the interesting things that my wife and I discussed while we were at the store was there is what felt like a strong sense of loyalty with the customers there. It was an extremely crowded store, even though it was relatively small, but it appeared like everyone in the community was going there to do their grocery shopping. Now, I think a lot of it has to do with their fresh meats and produce sections. Those were pretty impressive. But as far as the things that were on the shelves in the center of the store, we had a hard time finding the things to build this MRE. So we had to settle for a couple of things, but we did manage to put one together. Now, if you're curious about the rules that I use to build my homemade MREs, they're in the description box below if you want to skate down there and check that out. But let's open this up, see what we got. For our entree, I picked up another one of these Star-Kissed beef creations. This time I got the sweet barbecue. This is shredded beef in barbecue sauce. Now, in a recent video, I tried the taco meat and it was pretty good. So I'm really hoping that this holds up. Now, one of the things that I've pointed out before with these small pouches of meat is dollar for dollar, it's not a great bargain. When you really consider the price per pound for this, it's not a great deal. But the fact remains that having it sealed in this manner in a way that's easy to tote and easy to use is what we're paying for here. They're still not terribly expensive. Economically, it's not the best deal in the world, but this is going to meet our needs just fine. And for our side to go with that, I picked up the Uncle Ben's Ready Rice red beans and rice. I love me some Creole food, and red beans and rice is a staple in my house. So I'm really anxious to try Uncle Ben's version of it to see how it is. Now, we're going to use the barbecue meat as a topping to go with the red beans and rice, but if you had something like a summer sausage or some kind of dried sausage that you wanted to chop up and throw in here, that would absolutely work. One of the staples with red beans and rice is sausage. So before we go any further, let's get this into the trucker's lunchbox so we can move on and see what else is in this kit. All right, next is our walking around snack. And for that, I picked up a pack of Blue Diamond almonds. This is the smokehouse flavor. So I'm guessing that this is smoked almonds. This will give us a little bit of a protein kick, a little bit of a calorie kick, and it'll be a good belly filler between meals. For our dessert, this is one that I had a hard time with. One of the things that I was finding at Piggly Wiggly was that the Best By dates were really limiting me, but I didn't want to just start violating the rules just because. So the wife came over and got me and said, hey, I think I found something over here. So I went over and she had found these junior caramels. These are chocolate coated caramels. And I think that is going to be a perfect way to round out this meal. And last but not least, we have our beverage. And for that, I've got something I haven't seen before. I found this Folgers Instant Latte, and this is the buttery caramel flavor. This can be made iced or hot. We're gonna make ours hot because today it is cold outside. The weather has finally broken. Fall is coming in with a vengeance. The leaves are coming off the trees, and I woke up with a chill in the air. So we're gonna do a hot beverage to go with our MRE. All right, so before we get into anything else in this meal, let's mix up our Folgers Instant Latte. This should be interesting. Folgers has kind of a hit or miss history for me when it comes to their instant coffee. Maybe this will be better. And of course, to make our drink, we have to have the official Dad Budget Adventures bling mug, right? All right, let's get this in here. Ooh, that smells nice. This is the buttery caramel, and I can smell the butter. That's interesting. That's a very nice aroma. Let's hope it tastes as good as it smells. I can smell the Folgers coffee in this. That's a little disappointing. The buttery caramel smell is really nice, but Folgers has a very distinct smell to their coffee, and that's coming through really strong. And it's not something I've been a fan of in the past, but let's hope this redeems Folgers a little bit. I'm gonna set that aside and let it rest while we try some of this other stuff. By the way, I'm using my now world famous bamboo sporks. If you're curious about these or any of the other items that I use in this video, there'll be affiliate links in the description box below, so you can go check out exactly what I use. The sporks, the trucker's lunchbox, the jackery, and even these Mylar bags are gonna be in that list. I get questions all the time about all of this stuff. While I do appreciate the comments, you can save yourself a little trouble by just going down to the description box. Okay, so let's give these Blue Diamond Smokehouse almonds a try. All right, what have we got here? They don't smell overly smoky. I've had a few of these things where they kind of smelled like charcoal because there was so much smoke flavoring to them. But these have a very pleasant aroma to them. I'm picking up on the hints of smoke now, but it is a very light, smoky aroma. Let's get some of these out. So I've got a good handful of almonds there. Let's give those a try. See what we got. All right, those are really good. They've got just the right amount of smoke where you can taste it, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't destroy the flavor of the almonds. It's a really good balance. There's just a hint of sweetness there, a lot of saltiness, but once again, it's not overdone. The older I get, the more sensitive I become to the flavor of salt. And while it doesn't cause me any kind of problems with blood pressure or anything, it's really a turn off for me when things are just over salted. So these are just right. All right, so let's flush out some of that smoke and salt by trying our latte here, the buttery caramel Folgers latte. The aroma is equal parts really nice and a little off-putting. I can't get around that Folgers coffee smell. And I think I've really come to the realization that I'm not a fan of the coffee that Folgers uses. There's just something about it. I know there's a lot of y'all out there that absolutely love Folgers and it's the only thing you drink. It may be that the taste is so affected by the aroma for me that it just becomes unlikable, but let's give this a try and see if I can get past that. All right, so the first sip is just washing the other stuff out of my mouth. Let me try it again. You know what? I don't hate it. This is actually good. And unlike a lot of people in social media, I try not to overuse the word actually. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. So when I apply a qualifier like that, there's something to it. This is actually good. All right, so let's get in and try our entree and our side and see how the barbecue and red beans and rice is going to go over. Wow, that is really surprising. All right, let's open up this Uncle Ben's Ready Rice. See what awaits us in here. Let's get a taste of this. See what we've got. It's pretty good, but it's not great. There is a sharpness to the flavor that hits me on the back of my tongue that's a little disagreeable for me. For me, on its own, this wouldn't be a great entree, at least not as it stands. But for some people, this would be absolutely adequate as an entree for their meal. You got plenty of nutrition with the red beans and all the other things that go into this, and it would definitely be a belly filler. So let's pour this out here and see how much we've got in here. Now, y'all have seen me use different kinds of pre-cooked rice dishes before on these videos. These pouches are good if you're looking for something that's going to be a lot more filling. If I've got an entree that's got more substance to it, I like to use the little cups of minute rice. If I've got an entree that's got less substance to it, then these are a good way to make up for that as far as just the overall quantity of food that you're going to be having. So you'll see me use both. I do have a preference for the little cups because a lot of times the entree that I get is pretty substantial, and using this much rice with a large amount of some kind of meat or something, that's just a little excessive. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of it would end up going to waste for me. Now, if you've got a more hearty appetite, then chances are you'll be fine eating that much food. But keep in mind that these pouches are multiple servings. So everything in it, all the calories, all the sodium, everything is going to increase exponentially because you're eating the full pouch as opposed to eating what was intended to be eaten by one person. So let's open up our Starkist Beef Creations seasoned beef in sauce. Now, of course, if you really want to be more traditional and you don't want to use a plate for these, you can always add this into this pouch, mix it in, and just eat directly out of this pouch. It's perfectly acceptable. If you're out at camp and you don't want to mess up dishes, I would absolutely do it that way as opposed to pouring it on a plate. But we're putting it on a plate so you can get a better look at it. This smells good. It's very, very barbecue-y. Not like that barbecue chicken that I used in the last video. That was a little scary, and it did not smell like this. This really does smell like barbecue, which really makes me go back and revisit why that chicken didn't smell more like barbecue. And I think it was just a matter of the fact that it was getting old. Let's get us a taste of this barbecue meat. It's heavily sauced, it's very wet, it's very sweet smelling. So I have a feeling there's a lot of sugar in this, but let's give that a sample. That's not bad. Look, I come from the home of barbecue, and anytime somebody puts barbecue in front of me, if it's something other than what I can get at home, I'm just a little bit skeptical about it. But for what this is decent barbecue. I mean, essentially it's barbecue brisket, which is more of a Texas thing, but don't get me wrong, I love some barbecue brisket. All right, let's get this out onto our red beans and rice. We're just gonna put it right on top. You don't have to do this, of course. You could always just set it next to it. You could eat these as two totally separate dishes, but I am mixing them together. That's not a whole lot of meat. That's a very limited amount, so definitely consider adding 2 pouches if you're somebody that wants a little bit more of this barbecue. While I'm mixing this in, if you're enjoying this content, please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so that you can be made aware of all upcoming videos. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. That really helps with the algorithm, and it lets YouTube know that you want to see more of this. And then lastly, if you have a store in your area where you've not seen that I've done an MRE, drop a comment, tell me about it, and let me know that you'd like to see me do something at that store. Now, they may not be in my area, but I do travel a little bit, and when I'm out, I do try to find places I've never been. Let's give this a taste and see how this barbecue beef has improved or maybe diminished the flavor of the red beans and rice. That's not bad at all. The sweetness added just a little bit of pizzazz to that rice. So it definitely makes it a lot more palatable. But you know what this thing needs? There's one thing that will always make red beans and rice better. Good old Louisiana sauce piquant. Let's get some of that out there. We almost had another sriracha incident. Glad it went that way and not this way. Good old Louisiana hot sauce. All right, so let's give this a try and see what we ended up with. Uncle Ben's red beans and rice, Star-Kissed barbecue beef, and Louisiana hot sauce. Yeah, that definitely gave that red beans and rice what it needed. It really kicks it up a notch. So that wasn't too bad. And keep in mind something, I grew up in New Orleans. Cajun and Creole food runs in my veins. So it takes a lot to impress me when it comes to that style of cooking. And buying things that are prepackaged, canned foods, pouch foods, what have you, it's really hard to match my expectations when it comes to Cajun and Creole food. Let's flush that out. Yeah, still good. And finally, let's try our Junior caramels. This is not something that I'm familiar with. My wife always liked Junior mints. There's a couple other candies out there that are very similar to this that I've had in the past, but I don't remember ever trying Junior caramels. Smells nice and chocolatey. Let's get those in there and see if this is going to be a tooth breaker or if it's going to be a good option. The Junior caramels are nice and tender, but boy, are they chewy. That's definitely one of those, if somebody asks you a difficult question and you need a second to think about it, get a mouthful of those real quick because it's going to be a minute before you can come back to them. Swash that one down. All right, folks, that is it for our homemade MRE from Piggly Wiggly. I hope you enjoyed this one. It never ceases to amaze me how much support I get for this particular series of videos. This is not the content that I thought this channel was going to become known for, but it does give me the ability to play around with the other things that I like to do. So while the other videos don't get as much attention as these MRE videos, at least I'm getting to play with the stuff that I really like to do. But that's gonna be a wrap for this one. And until the next one, prepare for the world that you live in, not the one you wish existed. We'll see you around.